Welcome to the Pepper Fox Podcast, where we believe that nothing will empower individuals and strengthen humanity more than theater and film. Throughout this podcast, we will be sharing our favorite tips for actors, headshot expertise, and ways we live a creative lifestyle. Tune in for interviews with actors living their dreams and creatives dedicated to enriching their own communities. I'm your host, Bree Welch, actor, headshot photographer, mommy, and lover of Dr. Pepper. Let's do this.
Hi, this is Addison.
And I'm Bree.
And this is our world. Welcome to it.
Welcome. Guys, it's kind of crazy. Auditions are opening up.
Yeah.
Self-tapes are there as well. But yeah, stay safe out there. Wear those masks. Get out and audition.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Make sure you have a headshot. I am shooting currently. I'm only taking just a few headshot clients a week, and I am only one-on-one. I have a lot of guidelines in place to keep us both safe. But yeah, I'm on the very cautious side of all of this, and so you can trust that I'm going to be pretty vigorous about
keeping you safe. Yeah, vigorous.
Yeah, I'm going to be
diligent. Vigilant.
Vigilant. What? I'm going to be very diligent about the guidelines I put in place.
But your hair's probably grown out through this quarantine. Yeah. You need to go get your hair recolored.
Get those roots done, girls.
And
and boys, Addison bleached his hair.
And I have all this regrowth coming in.
Yeah, we call it shadow root. So that it's actually not just roots. It's it's shadow root, and it's cool to have shadow root. Yeah. Apparently.
Well. But you got to keep those headshots updated.
Yes.
With all your...
So come on in. I have my schedule online now, so that's been super nice. And you'll be able to check out what I have available. Again, just taking a couple appointments a week. So if you need those shots before a deadline, please get in. I hate to be rushed because I just want to give you all the time. Anyway, we need to apologize real fast because we were supposed to announce the winner of our giveaway last week.
Totally spaced it.
It didn't happen, but we read all the comments and I've been so blown away by all the DMs and emails that I've gotten as feedback from the podcast. Thank you guys so much. It truly means the world, and it makes me feel like, yeah, there is a bigger purpose for this podcast, and it's not just busy work. It really, truly, to me, is about spreading empowerment to actors and helping them know what's available to them. Yeah. It's incredible.
And what's been really cool is that you've gotten feedback from non-actors as well who have loved hearing people fulfill their dreams and what it takes to, in this business.
For you actors, just know that you are inspiring people by going after what you want and to be vulnerable enough to go to these auditions and to be open and show a part of yourself every time that you perform. It really is inspiring to people, and we love talking about it because it's magical.
Yeah.
We have selected a
giveaway
winner.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the comment.
Here it is. I have loved every episode of this podcast. It's so great to hear all kinds of topics covered by professionals in the industry, and even cooler that it's focused on Utah locals who have found so many ways to make the dream work for them. That's by Cambag.
Oh, Camry? Is that you?
Probably
Please
Camry.
email me or DM me. I would love to give you a mini session for free.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm so excited. So yes, I think we're going to continue doing these, maybe once a month. So please continue to write your comments and things on the Apple Podcast app. Leave a review. You go down to the Pepper Fox photo page, and then you go scroll down to the bottom, and on the bottom there's a link that says write a review, and you can leave stars or you can write words.
Preferably 5 stars.
Preferably 5, but we won't tell you that. Amazing. Okay, it's been really interesting, and this actually ties back to why we didn't do the giveaway last week, but there definitely has been there is in life an ebb and flow of creativity. And the more that you tap into that, the more that you'll realize that creativity is a finicky one.
Yeah.
I feel like what happens is sometimes we get in survival mode and we're doing, and we just need to get through the day. And all of a sudden, those creative juices and your ability to problem solve just goes away. And that's where I've been for the past couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, it's natural to have an ebb and flow to
It
creativity.
really is.
But can I be 100% honest with you?
Yes.
Really?
Always.
Full disclosure.
Amen.
Just me and you.
And all of you.
Not even with just creativity, but just like daily life.
Yeah.
Lately, this last little while, I have had the biggest dramatic swings in my just productivity levels.
Yes.
To being so manic and getting everything and anything done and just like bam, 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 to like becoming one with my white rocking chair and like melting
into it forever
and
just
days
like, and days.
and doing absolutely nothing. And I'm sure so many people have felt like that.
It's true.
So,
creativity has been super weird through this quarantine. And I feel like paying attention to the ebb and flow of what's happening will help you tap into creativity when you need it. So I call this like the cleaning craze. Do you ever get in a moment where you've like started doing the dishes or you started putting something away and then you see something else that needs to be done? And so then you hop from that thing to that. Shut up, Addison.
Never, nope.
I know this about you. No, but you go to the next thing and the next thing, and all of a sudden cleaning isn't like the hardest thing you've ever done. It's actually pretty easy, and you're just like in a mode and you're just go on a cleaning craze. I get in these every few days, and the thing
she gets
is,
laser focused, and like
do.
nothing anyone says like even passes a barrier. She just can't hear or see anyone else and just kind of like pounds around and just cleans.
Yeah. And you know what? I used to be like, I'm insane. This is so weird. And I noticed it when I was a kid, actually. But you know what? I've now seen it as a gift. And I really tap into when this happens and when I'm feeling that way to just get everything done. Because guess what? In 20 minutes, it will be over. And I won't want to do anything. And it's so hard to get up and do the dishes and stuff when you're not in that mode. And so I really have tapped into that, and that's how creativity works too. Sometimes it is just not there. So for us, for making solutions for our business or coming up with podcast interviews and content and that kind of stuff for Addison, painting and that kind of thing, there are going to be times when that is like pushing a cement block up a muddy hill, and it is the hardest thing you've ever done mentally. And sometimes it's like you have opened up the dam and you could just have a million ideas. I get these very randomly, but when I do, I stop everything and I start writing notes. So as we are getting out of this survival mode for the quarantine and all of that, I think you'll start to realize that there are times when your mind is at ease and it will start to wander and it will start to come up with solutions for your problems. And you need to listen to those. You need to stop. You need to pull up notes on your phone and write them all down.
Can I tell you all a secret?
Yes.
Bree has a notepad in the shower with waterproof paper and a waterproof pencil.
It ain't no secret.
And so she just immediately stops and writes.
There is
stops
science.
lathering her hair and writes down the note.
It's true.
Immediately.
I do. And you know what? There is science behind this. They say that when your body is in a mode where it can your brain can turn off because it knows what it's doing and it can just leave your body to do whatever it needs to do, your brain will start to problem solve for you. This is what happens when you sleep, right? The problems of your day, have you ever noticed that you solve them in your sleep in weird and unpredictable ways that aren't usually realistic, but you solve them. So when your brain gets to turn off and have a little bit of a break while your body is doing like repetitive movement, or like in the shower, why it's so nice is you kind of have a routine when you go in the shower.
Yeah.
Right? You have like a thing that you move to, and then you do this, and then while you let that soak, you shave your legs.
Yeah, it's great because you're naked too.
And you're also naked.
So that helps.
Crickets. No, but it makes your brain turn off, and so that you can think of other things that need to happen. It also happens when you're walking. That repetitive movement of one foot after the other will help your brain relax, and it knows what it's doing. It knows the path. It knows where to go. And all of a sudden your brain can think about all those problems that you've stuck on the back burner. So write down those notes when you're getting these ideas. You will be so surprised at how they'll pay back later. And follow through immediately. Also, I have a bad habit of beating myself up about bad ideas. So I'll follow... I tried to explain this to Addison and he thought I was nuts.
Yeah, I don't get it.
But listen, sometimes I'll come up with scenarios in my head of like, oh my gosh, wouldn't this be so cool if this invention helps do this? And then I'll go through and think about how awesome it would be if all of this happened. And then I'll come to some roadblocks of like, oh, well, that's why it doesn't work. Or that's why people haven't done it. Or that's why it's failed. And then I'll think, oh, that's so dumb. Why do I even try? And now saying it out loud, I feel like a crazy person. And Addison's looking at me like I'm a crazy person. But listen, this is something that I inherently do, is I will come up with solutions for problems and I'll beat myself up about it and be like, I shouldn't even think about that kind of stuff anymore because it never works.
You haven't even tried it.
I know. I haven't, because most of my ideas are crazy. Anyway, so don't beat yourself up about those ideas because it will train your brain not to think of the ones that will actually work. And if you didn't think of all those failed ideas, you wouldn't have the ones that worked. So validate your ideas, follow through immediately. That's a wonderful way to tell your brain, hey, I'm serious about this. Give me more of those. Like, let's do this. Validate those ideas and more ideas will come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So happy creativity. I hope you're getting a little bit more of that creative juice and feeling a little loosening up. As you find safety in your home and all of those things. Yeah. All right. So let's get into today.
Yeah. Who do you have?
So I guess a lot of times Addison and I get asked about how do y'all make it work? Right? Like,
how do you do what you do?
Yeah. How do you make money and do what you do? And we'll probably do like a solo podcast episode about how we specifically do it. Because I think a lot of times people,
think we should be living on the street.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They're like, aren't you a poor starving artist? And we're like, no, we're thriving
what
artists.
Do you do?
But what exactly do you do? It's true. I don't think a lot of people think we're legit. Like, they don't understand. And guess what? We're really smart. And there's a lot of smart couples that do this. And I think being a performer, sometimes, people will stop performing when they have a family. And that's cool too.
Yeah.
That's cool too.
Or the other way around, they put off having a family to keep performing.
Yeah.
And, you do you, but if you want to have your cake and eat it too,
then we want to show you other ways that it's possible.
Yeah.
There are a ton of couples that make it work by doing a lot of things that keep them afloat.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to prove that it's not just actors who work in the big city and are equity and that's their full-time job. There's other ways to make it happen. You just have to get creative about it. And so one of the best examples that I could think of to show you guys just what's possible is our great, great friends, Taylor and Bailee Morris. Now, he coordinates all of the performing camps at BYU, and she teaches voice lessons and is a professional photographer, and they have 2 incredible kids.
Just like us.
Just the same.
What?
I know. So we're going to see how they make it all run.
Cool.
Hello.
Hello.
Guys, I'm so excited to have you on.
We're doing it. Finally.
We're doing it.
We've
had so many plans to do this.
So many plans.
I am here with Taylor and Bailee Morris,
That's it.
and they are the king and queen of working in the arts and still having a family. So I'm so excited.
Queen. That's like
The king and
big,
queen.
Bree. I mean,
It's true.
I mean,
no
I believe
pressure.
it, but
No pressure at all.
high praise.
You guys have this.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Okay, so I first need to know, how did you both get started in performing? Like, take a turn. Tell me.
Well, it's going to be very different for each of us because Taylor, yeah, I guess I'll just start.
Yeah.
So I remember I did my first show when I was 8 years old. My mom said, "Hey, Bailee, there's an audition for Oliver today. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Sure." And
Why
she
not?
dropped me off. and it was like for a professional theater company in Arizona. And I went in and they asked me if I would be singing a cappella or with sheet music, and I didn't know what a cappella meant, so I said, "No, I will be singing without music." And I sang Consider Yourself from Oliver. I was
Adorable.
cast as a boy. I was cast as a Fagin kid.
Yes.
And then the rest is history, you know? The
Is
crazy
that
thing
when you knew you wanted to do this?
I mean, I grew up, my older sister did a lot of theater and still does. Her and her husband do a lot of theater in Arizona. And so I had already been exposed to it quite a bit. And my sister and I mean, we have an album that we recorded just for us and family and whatnot. But when I was 12, and the crazy
No
thing
way.
is, my voice doesn't sound that much different today than it did when I was 12. I've just like sounded like a 40-year-old woman my whole life, so it's fine.
That's amazing.
Oh gosh. So yeah.
That's so great. So you always knew that you loved to sing.
Yes, yes. And then once I started doing shows, then it was, all over from there because I loved it.
Okay, so in your head, would you say you're more of your daughter Zoe or your daughter Tilly?
Definitely Zoe. There are so many things that Zoe does that drive me insane, and Taylor will just look at me and I'll say, "You're thinking that that's exactly like me, right?" And he's like,
Yep.
"Yeah."
It's so true. Oh my
gosh.
gosh. Okay, what about you, Taylor? Where did you start?
So I started. I'm disclaimer right now. I'm terrible at telling stories because I always go on long tangents.
Yeah, I will not let that happen.
Thinking that this is very pertinent information when really it is not at all. But you're just gonna have to deal with it. So
no, we're not. I will say stop and get to the point.
I likewise had an older brother who sang and did shows in high school. He's 7 years older than me. So I grew up doing sports and was a competitive gymnast when my brother, right before he graduated, was part of a Houston Grand Opera mentoring program.
Yeah.
They selected 8 high school seniors to take free voice lessons from them and sit in on rehearsals and other things. And so I was in 5th grade at the time, and he told me about auditions for Pagliacci with the Houston Grand Opera, and they needed youth in the children's chorus who were gymnasts to be part of the circus acts. So I thought, oh, this is going to be perfect. I can sing and I can do gymnastics. So I was a circus performer for Houston Grand Opera's Pagliacci production.
Shut up.
For a summer, and that was my very first show that I did.
Wait, when you say you were a you were a gymnast?
Crazy gymnast. Did you know
What?
that?
No.
Yeah.
This is crazy to me. Did you start singing first? Did you start gymnasticking first?
So both.
Oh my gosh.
My mom taught piano lessons growing up, but like my oldest brother, the brother in between us can sing, but he didn't want that to be his thing, so he's a professional artist instead. And then my oldest brother, his voice developed super early. So like in 8th grade, he was like, had this rich baritone voice. For me, I was like a little boy till my senior year of high school.
Still are, Taylor. Still are.
Well, like for real, his pictures, it's crazy. When he was like 17, he looks like he's 12. And then all of a sudden he shot up like 6 inches and he looks like a man. His
Weird.
like so crazy.
So for me, it's like, yeah, I always thought like, yeah, I've got a good voice, I can sing, but it was never like, oh, I was in like ensemble parts in high school musicals and just did that for fun on the side. Um, and then going into college, I was like, okay, my senior year, I was like, oh no, I've got like a good voice, good voice. I can sing stuff. So I should continue doing this in college just for fun. And did what mainly choir through high school, and then musicals were just like things on the side.
Yeah.
So went to college, was still taking voice lessons, and then voice teacher started saying like, hey, this might be, you might want to consider like doing this. And I was like, no, I've already thought about it. Like, I'm in college now, time to get serious with life. And through different experiences that I had there, I felt like, no, I need to like, this is not to
Worth
get like
pursuing.
religious or spiritual, but I was like, this is where I felt like I needed to go. So I auditioned
Yeah.
for both vocal performance and for musical theater. Houston, where I grew up, very musically inclined, but mainly classically oriented.
Oh yeah.
With orchestra band and our choir at our high school they were all phenomenal. Had great instructors. So in college, I was like, well, if I'm going to be, pursuing this, then I need to go like the actual like the only true route. So I need to go classically, which is where I was more trained. And auditions were on the same day. Went to the vocal performance audition and did well at that, and then went to the musical theater audition where I was like, this is going to be way outside my comfort zone, not really my jam. And the dance audition, things happened to line up to where by the time it was my turn to audition, I actually knew the dance. Luckily, my name got put towards the bottom of the stack. And then the singing audition went better than any singing audition I'd ever done.
Wow.
And I left the audition knowing I was going to make the program and that's what I needed to do. So I was made fun of throughout college because I knew zero musicals. I had never seen a musical other than the ones that my older brother were in high school and the ones that I was involved with. So I knew the plot of like 6 musicals
Oh my gosh.
and had never listened to albums of any other
He
musicals.
had never heard. In fact, one of my favorite stories is that when I got home from my mission and I had the biggest crush on Taylor, I called my dear friend because I was like looking at all of our mutual friends, and I called my dear friend Jeremiah again, and I was like, Jeremiah, you know Taylor, just be straight with me. Like, is he gay? And Jeremiah goes, oh my gosh, no. Plus he hadn't even heard of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Like that was like
that was the gaydar.
Yes.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So that Joseph story goes back to for our at BYU each year they do a musical, like a Broadway review
Okay.
for the program, and it's to raise funds for future scholarships for the program. And the men's number was Canaan Days. So I show up to the first rehearsal and we're going through music, and I had looked at the sheet music, but then everyone was singing with a French accent. And the first time it paused, I was like, okay, hold up. Why do we have French accents? This makes zero sense.
This is incredible.
Yeah, and I got made fun of a lot for that.
It's amazing. Okay, so this is perfect. You've led us up to college. Is this where you guys met?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
We met in the collage. So we both served missions for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And Bailee's a year and a half older than me, but she didn't leave on her mission until she was like 23. But timing of everything, it worked out to where I left on my mission and didn't start in the musical theater program until I got back. Bailee, my freshman year at college was her sophomore year already in the program. I left on my mission. So my freshman year before my mission she was in her sophomore year, but I wasn't in the program yet, so we didn't cross paths yet. I left for 2 years, came back, and Bailee at that point was about ready to graduate and then felt like she wanted to serve a mission. So she postponed graduating, served a mission, then she came back, and I was close to graduating. She was then almost ready to graduate, and
Whoa.
we met. We met at Randy Booth's house. He's the director of the Young Ambassadors. I was serving as the president of the group at the time. Bailee had come back and was living in DC for the summer. Came to work as a choreographer for the Young Ambassador summer camp, and I was going to be the head counselor at it. And so we met at the training meeting at Randy's house, and then spent 2 weeks together working at the camp, and got to be super good friends. Went on one date at the end of that. Then she went back to DC. We stayed in touch. She came back for school. Craziness of school started. We didn't start dating till October, and then once we started dating, we were both like, "Yes, this is happening."
Oh my gosh. Is that how it was for you, Bailee?
Sorry, I had to go wipe a butt.
Oh, you're fine. This is what the whole podcast is about.
It was my butt. She had to wipe my butt.
I'm always wiping my butt.
TMI, Taylor. Oh,
Gross.
I can't reach.
Kate, all right, that's enough. What was the question? Sorry.
no, it's totally okay. We were just talking about how you guys met.
Yeah.
And he was saying that once you started dating, you both just like knew.
Oh yeah, no, I knew like the second I saw him. And then
Wow.
I had to like literally just wait for him to also know. So I kid you not, I had just gotten home from my mission, and I was living in DC, but then I came to Utah to be a choreographer for the Young Ambassador Camp. And I think we had like mutual friends on Facebook, and it was like a suggested friend. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, he is so handsome and he's in MDT. I was like, what? Like, and then anyway, I met him at this meeting prior to that camp that we would both be working at. But I saw him, and I kid you not, I was like, I'm going to marry that boy.
Oh
She told one of our friends that day.
I did. At the camp, I told several people. I told Carson Wright and Michelle Ringer. I was like, guys, I'm going to marry Taylor Morris. And they were like, okay. And then I started doing my, made sure he wasn't gay, because I had been down that road too many times.
Right,
And-
right.
Which is why my book, when I write it, it's going to be called When Your Ex-Boyfriends Date Each Other. And it's going to be a memoir of my life.
I cannot wait.
It's going to be amazing. Like, when your ex-boyfriends date each other, a Mormon actress as she navigates life or something. Like,
seriously.
But
it was one of those things though that you kind of had to check on, right?
Oh yeah.
I remember asking about my husband as well, because
yeah.
you just had to ask when they were in the musical theater program.
And like, I feel like I had so many experiences of men that I just adored and loved, that couldn't love me the way that I wanted and deserved to be loved, or the way that they wanted to love somebody. And so it was just one of those things that I had to sort of like double check.
Yeah.
Several times.
Totally.
Oh, God.
Okay, so you guys graduate together, right?
Yeah, so then I sort of like extended my education so that I could do Young Ambassadors with Taylor, because I was technically done with my requirements for my major for MDT, but then we wanted to do Young Ambassadors together because, a big part of our story is the accident, right? So
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
So after we got engaged November 19th, 2012, and that night we were driving to Arizona to spend Thanksgiving with my family. And it was me and Taylor and his younger sister, Maddie. And we were driving, doing fine. Like, we had treats, we had soda. Taylor and I were talking, and we were reading this book that was like 100 questions you should ask your future spouse or something. And so we were kind of going through it, and then there got to a point where Maddie wanted us to kind of turn off the music and be quiet so that she could sleep. And the next thing we both knew, we were waking up to a crash. We were launched in the air off the side of the freeway, and we flew 100 feet. 100 feet, and we nosedived. and flipped over on the back of the car. And yeah, so Taylor's sister Maddie died instantly. And can you still hear us, Bree?
I can.
Okay, because my computer just like went to sleep, so I just want to make sure.
Yes.
And Taylor, I was fine, and I crawled out of the car and called 911 and was able to help Taylor reposition so that he could breathe. And he thought he was going to die. He did the whole. We kind of joke that we had the "Don't you fret, Monsieur Marius" experience.
Oh my gosh.
Except I was the Marius and he was the Eponine.
Oh my gosh. Please tell me it wasn't raining.
No, but it was so cold. It was so cold. And I had no shoes on. And I remember my feet were like sticking out of the side of the car. And I eventually, because I was holding Taylor in a position that he could breathe because his lungs were so pinched from the crunch. And he had also broken his back and neck, and he thought he was paralyzed.
Well, at the time, I was paralyzed from the neck down. So I couldn't move, I could feel pain in different areas of my body, but couldn't move anything. So in order to breathe, I needed Bailee to reposition me. And then because of the pain that I felt in areas and because I couldn't move, what I was envisioning was wrong with my body was as bad as it was, but also worse in other areas. And I was assuming that I was 100% on my way out of this life. So I wanted to make sure I took that moment to say goodbye to Bailee, my brand new fiance, and just be with her in that moment. And she quickly snapped me out of it. Was like, nope, you just need to breathe. You can breathe right now, so let's focus on that. And
yeah.
I feel like that's just been a pattern in our life, is us just reminding each other to breathe.
Oh my gosh. You have to take turns, right?
Right now, it's like when I just want to rip my hair out because of my kids.
Go take a nap.
Just go take a nap. Do some deep breathing.
We're going to get through this. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, he was life flighted to Vegas, and then we were in Kanab. We were outside of Kanab. So I was stuck there with no car, and had just experienced a horrific thing. And I remember turning on my phone that was just covered in blood so that I could call my family and tell them what was going on. And I got all of these notifications of people congratulating us, and I had like sort of forgotten, like, oh my gosh, we just got engaged. Like, and I like looked down at my Kohl's $7 ring because mine was like on back order, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that was the last thing that we had said to anyone via social media was, hey, we're engaged, and then this horrific accident happened. And so it was a really surreal experience right then. So then someone, a kind lady, I was like, I need to get to Vegas. I was stuck in Kanab, and my siblings were like, we'll come get you and take you. But I'm like, that would take too long. And so this really kind woman named Harriet, who we still keep in contact with, drove me 3 hours to Vegas that day.
Wow.
Took care of me and took me to the car to get our stuff and kind of walked me through that experience. And anyway, it's a really remarkable story that would, take a really long time to tell you the whole thing, but
we experienced a lot of kindness from people we knew really well, from friends of friends, and from complete strangers who just stopped what they were doing and did what they could. And it was always more than enough for us.
What do you feel like, for both of you, what do you feel like from the accident, what changed about your performing lives and how you, I don't know, does it make you appreciate performing more?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially I'll never forget watching Taylor, because Taylor was on the Young Ambassadors that year. I wasn't, because I had been on my mission. So I remember seeing him though come on stage with a back brace underneath his costume, and how I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And then I remember when Taylor was in Seven Brides at Hale in the old West Valley Theater, watching him walk on his hands across the stage. And that was the first time I'd seen him do anything, gymnastic related since the accident. And I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and was like, oh my gosh, like he shouldn't have, they said he would never walk again, And so I
Yeah.
think it just, for me, watching him, it made me appreciate what a blessing our physical abilities are. So I don't know
Yeah.
what your experience was, honey.
From a performing standpoint, I actually feel like I wasn't a good actor until the car accident.
That's probably true.
Interesting. Tell me why.
In a lot of ways, I feel like one, I felt like an outsider in the musical theater realm because
Sure.
I didn't plan on moving to New York to perform, and so I think the program didn't take me seriously. So then I also like wasn't rising to what I should be doing as a
Sure.
performer, and just I think relied on my voice as a crutch to say like, oh, I'm a really good singer, so I can get by and do what I need to. In the car accident, it really changed my perspective on things. One, I became way less concerned with what other people thought of me and more just realized like, oh, like what I have to offer is just what I have to offer. And that's enough. And if it's not enough for a certain role when I'm auditioning, then that's fine. They don't see me in that role. I brought all that I can offer to that role when auditioning, and that's I left it on the table. If that's not right for the part, then that's fine. If it is right for the part, great. They know exactly what I'm going to bring to it. And then when performing, I feel like it's my job to just be me, and be me within that role. And I've also learned through it that the things that we usually worry about are things
Don't
not
really
to
matter.
worry about at all.
Right.
Like, who worries a lot about things, Taylor?
Not me.
Me.
Ah.
But
Just
I
helping each
remember
other breathe.
coming back to, it was one of the last classes I took at BYU. It's called an Auditions Class. And in that class, you learn 6 different monologues in all different styles and 2 different songs.
Like 6 different genres.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be able to put that together as like your audition book so that if you were going out to audition for any role in any genre of show, you would have monologues and songs that would work for it. And I remember being in class that semester after the accident, and my classmates and my teacher, um, it seemed like they viewed me differently after the accident. I think they all expected me to like be very broken, and other classmates were going through like some of their own emotional issues, and real issues. And I mean, not emotional issues are real issues, but they were dealing with their own things, and so they were having a hard time and like preparing to move on and move to New York and dealing with that anxiety. And I was in class just like, I'm fine. And they're like, why are you fine?
It's actually very like mind-boggling, like
And
how fine he is through any sort of up and down, any sort
Yeah.
of like bump in the road. He's just like, we'll get through it.
That's amazing. It's such a gift.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like something like that too. I mean, obviously you're grateful to be able to use your body. I think that is, it would be amazing to be able to go, okay, I've come this far and look what I've done. I also think on an acting standpoint, like you were saying, Taylor, for both of you dealing with that kind of grief and that kind of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as actors, we need to be able to tap into those things.
Yeah.
And I get really nervous about tapping into real life things when, you know, they could be triggering or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think there is a healthy way to, because you are deeper people now,
Yeah.
just naturally.
Right.
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 Mhm.
I think, yeah, I was thinking that actually when you asked that question, like in a, you know, anytime as an educator, when I'm working with students on communicating their songs, I mean, my main gig is voice teaching, but I'm always helping them prepare for auditions and whatnot, is to find an experience that feels real for them. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I mean, I could be using our car accident in my, you know, performance, and they could be using the fact that their boyfriend broke up with them through a text,
Sure.
but it's the same level of hurt because
Yeah.
it's real for them and it's real for me. And I think that it's so important to use our life experiences, just like you said, in a safe, healthy way. I always tell my students that you need to access it once and go to that really scary place, and then you know how to access it without it being scary, because then you
Totally.
can trigger, the muscle memory basically, of your breath. And if your heartbeat picks up because your breathing picks up, you can imitate that really quickly with it being 100% pretend. um, and have it still feel very real after you experience it real for the first time, if that makes sense. But I think it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
important that we use our life experiences to aid in our genuinity and our honesty in our communication through performing.
Wow.
I also
Do you feel
found
like, yeah, go ahead.
so we talk about our car accident in lots of different settings, and I found through talking about real experiences and what we've learned through it, there are a lot of people. I've been surprised at how much other people listening to it have connected to it,
Yeah.
and how it's been healing for them, and I think it's been healing for us in ways. But through that, I found on stage it's no different. We're connecting with our audience in real ways, even if we're not telling real stories.
Hmm.
The connection is real. And I found for me, I don't, it's not that I need to feel anything or I need to relive or experience anything on stage. I need to be an actor and provide that experience for the audience. So I need to do what's necessary for it to be believable in the character, so that the audience members, if I'm portraying a character that something traumatic has happened, it's going to be no good for the audience if I'm having a traumatic experience on stage. But the audience needs to believe that the actor is having or is going through that, because then they themselves feel whatever is necessary, whatever they want to
Mhm.
feel in that moment,
Totally.
that is going to give them that healing experience that the theater is for many people that attend.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think, for performers, it's our responsibility to be able to tap into that responsibly
Mhm.
and consistently. So being able to do that in a healthy way by having that muscle memory and not going there every single time is I think really important, and it's our responsibility.
Yeah. I
Okay,
agree.
I want to know from the accident, did your goals as performers change from before to after? Did you have different perspective or different goals?
Um, I mean, Taylor, I feel like I might be speaking for him, but his objective in performing, I feel like, has always been pretty pure and pretty, just that he enjoys it and he wants people to have a good time. I'll be honest, mine growing up, and then living in a world that is so focused on, um, looking a certain way, sounding a certain way, being a certain way in order to be accepted. I was very much a selfish performer and wanted everyone to tell me that I was the best, and
Mm.
for people to shower me with praise and to be so honored to be able to witness my performance. And that changed dramatically for me, where I realized this isn't about me. This isn't about
Yeah.
me or how high I can belt or if I'm skinny or if I'm the lead or if I have the best solo. This isn't about that. This is about the people that are here witnessing and experiencing something that helps them to make better choices and to feel love. It all comes back for love. And that for me, it needed to come from a place of love for myself and for my craft. And before, it came from a place of comparison and of trying to be the best and of competition, instead of just loving my student, my, what am I trying to say, my classmates, like the people in my major, loving them and wanting success for them and also for myself, instead of it just being like, oh, they're better than me or they are skinnier than me. Like, it turned into, after the accident, it became way more of from a place of love and gratitude instead of that negative headspace.
Yeah. So you guys have been talking about, Taylor, you were saying, I never really wanted to go to Broadway. That's always been me in my marriage. I've always been kind of been like, why? Bailee, has that always been the case for you?
Yes, I don't know if it's not that moving to New York isn't practical. I think we would have been able to move to New York. We would have been able to perform in shows. We actually, um, we were in final callbacks for a Disney cruise when we found out that Bailee was pregnant. Um,
Oh my gosh.
so then we had to call them and say, sorry, we're pulling out. Um, but and at that time, it was a little interesting because I had just accepted, I was graduating from college and had accepted a full time position um, already, but was still auditioning to see, like, maybe this will work and we can do this for a little bit. But for me, I have always envisioned owning a house and like the suburban American dream, I guess,
Yeah.
of having a house, of going to work 9 to 5 and raising kids. And I, I don't know. I think we live in a fantastic area for that and have incredible performing opportunities to where I feel like, at least for me, it hasn't been a sacrifice. I'm able to perform on bigger stages than I ever thought I was going to. And because I never planned on performing professionally and thought, oh, I'll just sing for fun and keep it up. But it's been cool to see, I guess, what I envisioned for my life come to fruition and even better than I imagined it.
Absolutely. What about you, Bailee?
Yeah, mine is a little different. I mean, I definitely knew. I mean, when I came home from my mission, I was gung ho. I was moving to New York. I had spent the entire summer in DC, and I would go to New York every couple weeks, and I just envisioned my life there. But at that point in my life, I also didn't think that it was possible for someone to love me or for me to love someone the way that I love Taylor. And so
Yeah.
it was sort of like, well, if I'm not going to get married, then I might as well be a Broadway star. um,
Totally. That's sound logic.
but then in dating Taylor and how fast we got engaged and everything, I knew that that would be something that I would be kind of putting on the back burner, knowing that that wasn't really in the cards for us. Especially, I mean, I would have loved to have, I want it all, right? Like I want to go and live in New York and then come back and have this experience that we have now. But
Yeah.
the thing is it's just that's not how things played out. And the truth is, if I wouldn't have gone on a mission, I was planning on leaving to New York that like right after I finished my fourth year at BYU.
Hmm.
I was going to graduate and then move to New York, but then I decided to go on a mission. Well, actually, God told me, no, you are going on a mission. And I was like, nah, that's fine. It's okay. I don't need to go. I'm 23. Like I'm old, you know. Anyway, so I did go on a mission. And then my plan was, okay, I'll do a year of school when I get back and then I'll move to New York. And if I wouldn't have gone on my mission, I probably would have done New York. And who knows what would have happened? I might not have met Taylor. I might not have,
Yeah.
um, maybe I would be a star right now, maybe, but I also wouldn't have this fantastic husband and two beautiful children. And so I feel like it definitely feels like a little bit of a sacrifice for me, but it's one that I'm here for because I agree with Taylor. I mean, the amount of performing and the amount of roles that I've been able to have in the capacity that we have here is remarkable. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that. And I don't know that it would have been, maybe I would have been in, you know, in an ensemble for a long time and that would have been really cool. But I've been stretched as a performer and as a mom and as a wife in ways in this life that I don't think I would have been had I done the New York path.
Absolutely. I mean, I love talking about differing views in marriage because I think a lot of times people go, well, if you got married, you should have had the same goals, or we live
Right,
under some
right.
kind of weird mentality that we we've been raised the same and we have the same goals, and then we're
Yeah,
going to marry those two.
right.
And I don't think it's ever true.
No.
And Addison has always had the Broadway dream and always wanted to do moving across the country and doing a
Mhm.
lot of big things. Which is funny because I feel like I'm the very ambitious one,
Yeah.
but I also love variety, and I feel like Utah has been such a great place for me to have,
Mhm.
you know, the kind of variety in roles that I want, and to be able to have the variety in the lifestyle that I
Yeah.
want.
I also
Um,
really value the fact that our life isn't performing. We just
yes,
perform in our lives. Like,
yes, I
we
agree.
just add performing to our already very abundant life. And actually, you are a person that I really look up to a lot in your abundant mindset, and just kind of that feeling that, first of all, there's enough for everybody, and there's enough success and enough shows, and there are enough clients, and there's enough money for everybody. And I think that abundant mindset is easier when you're not totally focused on one thing. Like,
Yeah,
I have to land a role. For us, it's like, well, it'd be really cool if we landed that role, but our life doesn't depend on it. And so
right.
we
It's
can
not our
still
livelihood.
live in like a place of freedom in a way.
Yeah.
I definitely react more if I don't land something that I really wanted differently than Taylor. I mean, he like became like the freaking statue of David for the Tarzan audition, and I thought for sure he was going to get it, and he didn't. And he's
Yeah.
just like, "That's okay." And I'm like, "But you've been like working
Working.
out like crazy and drinking protein shakes all day," and like, and he's like, "Yeah, and like how cool that like, I proved to myself that I can get my body into this way." And I'm like, I need to go and take a minute and process everything that you're not processing, because but that's just,
Because you're mourning for
yes,
him.
I'm like, fine, if you're not going to be sad about it, then I'm going to be sad about it.
This
And
is
then he's
incredible.
also like super happy for Derek and Zach, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, I really
Yeah.
value that in him and the attitude he has.
I mean,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would have loved to have gotten cast, but
Yeah.
I think for me, especially going back to the car accident and my youth as a gymnast, it would have been cool to be in a role that was both like physically active, and used some of the same skills that I learned as a kid and loved, and then also combining that with musical theater, and then coming from the car accident to be like, oh, this is where I was physically this many years ago, and I never thought this would be possible. But
And really bring it full circle.
yeah, so that would have been cool. But I still think, even though I'm not performing in the role, I still accomplished a lot of those same things.
Yeah, you got where you needed to be for the role.
Uh huh.
We also
I love that.
genuinely live by the motto. I guess it would kind of be like our family motto. How do you know
Yeah.
something was supposed to happen? Because it did. And so, we really believe that things happen exactly how they're supposed to, and we don't even need to question, well, why did the accident happen, or why did I not get this thing, or why don't we have X, Y, or Z? Because it happened the way that it did, because that's exactly how it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's
Questioning it
such a
does
healthy thing.
nothing for us.
Yeah.
It provides no progress whatsoever.
And I think what
As
that is just faith and hope that the Lord's plan for our lives is better than we could possibly dream up for our own lives.
totally.
And if we get stuck in, this is what I want for my life, and I'm only going to be happy if this, and this happens, then we're rejecting the fact that we're going to be much happier if we look for the hand of the Lord in our life and pay attention to those things and accept what is given to us and have gratitude for what we have. And that's where, for me, at least, I feel like true joy is found.
I love that so much. I don't even think telling 20-year-old Bree how happy her life could be without all the things that she thought would bring her happiness.
Mhm.
I don't even think my mind could have comprehended that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think your mind can comprehend how joyful children make you.
Mhm.
Right?
It's also crazy, but like,
It's crazy. I know.
the joyful definitely like overrides the crazy.
Yes, and the fulfillment, I guess. It's not
Yeah.
always just happiness, but it is fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it's something that is not fleeting like a show.
Right.
It's something that is super lasting.
Right.
Um,
I
yeah.
was thinking about that when my last show closed. because it was right before. So Bright Star was opening, and our day, the day of the Seussical Closing, which that show was huge for me because I was single cast, and so it was a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And I remember that day being like, oh my gosh, like it's just done. And now Bright Star is now the shining star, you know?
Totally.
Like
Totally. It just feels like
like,
you're so replaced.
yeah, you just get like, okay, like we're on to the next thing. And that's not like at the fault of, it's just the nature of the business. Like
Yeah.
we experience something and then we move on to the next thing. But I like definitely had a few days. I remember it closed and I sobbed and sobbed for like a full, I don't know, hour or two, just because I was like, I put so much into that and now it's just over.
It's just
Just
gone.
over. Whereas
Yeah.
like things in our life aren't like that. You know,
Totally.
we're kind of a constant um a constant entity of growth in our lives. But then performing is like these chunks of very, very high highs and very, very low lows.
Yes.
I also love the friendships and the community that comes with performing.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
along with, you connecting to the character or whatnot, or being a part of the show and then the show ends, there's a lot of relationships that are formed in that show. People you've never met before that you're randomly put together because you're cast in the same show. You then spend obscene amounts of time with them during rehearsals and during performing, and you build great friendships. And then the show ends, and it's like, great, see you again if we were ever in a show together.
Right.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
the next time you see them, it's the typical like, oh my gosh, we should hang out more, but like you're not involved in the same like
Yeah.
social circle elsewhere. But then when you are in a show with them, you realize like, oh my gosh, this is one of my best friends,
Yes.
but I never hang out with you unless we're doing a show.
Oh,
And
totally.
it's this weird world where I feel like it's one of the only places where that happens,
Yeah.
where you form these great relationships, but the only time that you spend together is while you're working on a show together.
Yeah.
Other places, like you wouldn't have that luxury.
No.
You were all coming from different places that happened to be in a show in some city back east, and then you say goodbye forever, pretty much, but we get to still associate and still kind of watch our friends. Like we get to watch our friends all the time in shows.
Yes.
What an incredible
Yes.
thing. And get to perform for people that we know love us versus performing for an
Yeah.
audience full of strangers. It's
Totally.
cool.
There was a guy during the rehearsal process of The Pirate Queen who came in and he was working on his master thesis, and he had sat through we were his third, 3 rehearsal processes. He had this theory about how casts come together so quickly and why they do, and how they could integrate it into other workplaces. But he basically, I was able to read his thesis, and it was huge and awesome. But it was basically that because you have this group of people coming together who all feel vulnerable and are making mistakes in front of each other, and then are being playful, you're working towards one goal. It creates bonds so quickly, and they're like, because you're able to be so open with people, you're able to create those bonds and be able to have lasting relationships. It was super interesting.
I love that.
I know.
That's really
Okay,
cool.
I need to know, what does a typical day look like in the life of Taylor and Bailee?
Typical weekday or weekend?
Yeah.
Ooh, this is a good question. Let's do weekday first.
So also I was thinking about that question. It just depends on if we're in a show as well. Because like,
let's imagine you're in a show.
Okay, so like during Seussical, for example, I had a show, I had at least 8 shows a week. And so I get up and Taylor goes to work and he's gone until 5.
And tell people where Taylor works.
So I work at BYU especially for youth programs.
So cool.
So he runs like
so EFY, Adventure for Youth, and
Habits for Life. There's a bunch of like special edition EFY programs.
It's a great job.
And this is like a 9 to 5 job, yeah?
9 to 5, except for the summers when I can never do a show that overlaps either rehearsals or performances in the summer, because summers is then It is kind of 9 to 5 some weeks. Other weeks it is I might be offsite for a week at the camp. And then other weeks I'm prepping for the camp, so I'm staying late to try and make sure everything's ready. And then when camps are happening, even if the work for the day can be done 9 to 5, there's still the unknown, and I have to be available pretty much 24/7 if a kid were to get sick or injured or do something dumb and need to be picked up by a parent, then I need to be available to make those phone calls and arrangements.
Mhm.
So definitely full time.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bailee, you wake up.
So, and I do the kids. So we have breakfast and we watch a show usually in the morning. While I have this thing where I can't leave the house if it's messy, and so we'll usually play in the morning. But then I'll do like a quick cleanup, and then we leave and go do something outside the house. We'll go, and me and the girls will go to a play place or to a museum or some sort of activity of some sort.
Yeah.
I try to take the kids as much as I can every day to go do something, which mostly is for my own sanity.
Yes.
And then we come back and we have lunch, and then the nanny comes around 2 o'clock or 1:30, 1 or 1:30, and I teach until about 6.
And you
And
teach voice
I
lessons,
teach
right?
voice lessons. Yep. And I do teach at BYU one day a week, which is more of like a morning to afternoon day. So that day is a little
Cool.
different. And then Taylor comes home and I say goodbye to the girls and I go to a show. And then he does bedtime and he is the master bedtimer. In fact,
Oh
even
my
when I'm
gosh.
here,
Defending champ.
yeah, he's amazing.
Yes.
I usually let him be mostly in charge of bedtime because it just by the end of the day I'm just wiped, you know.
Oh yeah.
So that's like a typical day. I mean, there are days like that one of us is maybe shooting a commercial shoot or something like that. Since we're both with TMG now, that kind of stuff comes up a little
Yeah.
more. And honestly, like our life is constantly changing, I feel like. So
Yeah.
now, I'm not in a show and our life is a little different where nights I might be doing more photography projects or working on an audition for a TMG shoot or something like that. So it just kind of like evolves constantly, and we have to communicate every day about what's going on for the next day so that
Yes.
I can know exactly when the nanny needs to be here and what things, is the nanny picking Zoe up from school or am I picking her up from school? And can you pick up Zoe from ballet on your way home from work? Great. Just that kind of like daily planning. Like we have to
Yeah.
truly like plan daily what is happening.
Oh, totally. Because it's always different.
It's always different. Yeah.
Always different,
Why?
always changing. I feel like we do a great job of balancing workload. Bailee takes care of like pretty much all scheduling, and then like with babysitters and other things. And then I love the kitchen. I love doing dishes. I love putting dishes away. I
Yeah, I
love
know. He's a dream.
I
He's a
love
What a
dream.
I
great
love to
skill.
cook and try new things cooking in the kitchen. And then laundry, I feel like it's not either one of our responsibilities. It's kind of just whoever's home. I
Yeah.
like at night folding laundry while watching shows during
Oh, sure.
my me time at like midnight to 1 a.m. That's my time to fold laundry.
Yeah.
Of course, designated.
But yeah, it's just a lot of communication. And then if at any point either one of us is like, I'm overwhelmed with these other things, then we adjust some of the load temporarily and
Yeah.
take care of other things as needed. And then
Yeah. I think a big
Amazing.
thing too is like we adapt with each other as far as like what projects we have working on. There's been times where I'm like, hey, I have this shoot tomorrow that I'm gonna be gone all day. Like there was one time where we were supposed to be singing at a fireside and I didn't the shoot went way longer than it was supposed to. And so I ended up not being able to go with him. And he just like picked up the slack and just covered for me, and it like wasn't a
Yeah.
problem. And then I mean this year, like 2020 is gonna be a weird year because
Yes.
all of the show. Oh wait, I guess there's a possibility that I'm in a show this summer. Hopefully it still happens. So it's kind of still up in the air, so I won't say anything just in case. But it's weird that neither one of us have a show like for sure on the horizon. We
Totally.
last 4 or 5 years, one of us has been in a show. And so now that we're both home, because when Taylor's in a show, then I'm on duty every night or every other night while he's performing. And that's definitely like a trickier time since I'm with the kids usually all day, and then have to do bedtime as well. But we make it work, and then he's there the days that he is home and on it, and so that I can have a little bit of a breather. But
It's weird to think that the next Hail Sandy thank you party we
we
probably won't
won't
be at.
even be at. Like, what?
Totally.
And
Totally.
there will be a space of time where we don't have our cast tickets.
Yes. Oh no.
Like, what the?
Yeah.
Where's our culture going to come in?
Right.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
almost like since we've been married, one of us we've traded off, and one of us has always been in a show.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
That's
kind
us
of thought
too.
2020 was going to be the year that I have a baby, and I had a miscarriage actually, and so
Yeah.
we thought like, oh, we're gonna have a baby in November, so that this is perfect. But now it's looking like that's not going to happen, because even if the time is running out in 2020.
Where are we?
I
Where
know,
are
right?
we?
So
it's such a sacrifice to make this performing life work,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Why is it so important to both of you to continue performing while you raise a family?
So when we met each other, we met while we were in school. We were both working, and we were involved in Young Ambassadors and then doing shows. So we've always known each other while being involved in multiple things. And that's,
Yeah.
in some ways, I feel like that's where we function best, is when we're both involved in multiple projects and we support each other in those different projects. Bailee's talked about this a lot, where in some of her I'm speaking for Bailee now, in some of her conflicting priorities, where she's like, oh, I feel like I want to be spending more time with my kids, but I'm doing shows and photography and teaching voice and acting in commercials and doing modeling for things. But then when it comes down to it, she's like, no, I want my girls to see me as somebody who, like, being a mom and getting married doesn't mean I stop doing what I love to do. That I can still do what I love. I can still find ways to be doing what I love while helping provide for our family. And I can then, through my example, show my girls, go after what you want to do, and like, don't quit because it's hard or because this gets in the way or this gets in the way. Find a way to make it work.
Yeah, that resonates so much with me. So
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about that too, Brie, like how much being performing actually makes me a better mom. Like the experiences that I have, and I do play a lot of like mom characters, and so the experiences that I have in those shows, I come home and I'm different. I'm maybe more compassionate. I even like filmed an audition the other day where I was defending a daughter in the audition, and I just thought like, yeah, like I always want to be on my kid's side. Like I always, so it's just amazing how, I mean, that's the whole reason we go to shows. We go to shows so that we can feel something, and so that we can, and why other people support the arts as well, is because it makes them feel something. And
Yeah.
for me, it gives me things that I can apply to my home and to our family. And I love that I get to go and do something that brings me so much joy and that I work so hard at, and then come home and like tell my kids like, yeah, I was working today. And
Yeah.
I tell Zoe often, because she has a really hard time sometimes when I'm teaching. And I say, Zoe, did you know that I love teaching so much? And I love being able to help other kids find their voice. And I can see her kind of proud of that. Like, yeah, like my mom
Yeah.
loves what she does. And I think
Oh, that's so cool.
that's really important.
Well, and it really shows them that they can pursue their dreams too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think, for me personally, I I think performing not only makes me a better father and husband, but makes me just a better person in general. It makes me a better friend, better community member, because what our society is lacking a bunch is empathy and being able to view things from other people's perspectives. And as an actor, you study human behavior. When you're reading through a script, you're analyzing, why is not only my character that I'm going to be playing, why are they saying this? But what's the thought behind it? What are they feeling? What are they dealing with? And you're trying to place yourselves in their shoes, but you're also analyzing the other characters that they interact with and trying to figure out, where are they coming from? What's going on? Then when you're rehearsing it, when you're in the scene, you may have you've read the lines and you know the lines before you go into it, but then you start interacting with other human beings who are portraying these characters, and the way that they've internalized their character may be different than you've pictured it in your own mind. So then you're having to be present with that person and say, oh, this is what this person is thinking and feeling, and this is what they're saying to me. I have to not only connect and respond to the exact words that they're saying, but also what's their thought, what's their intent behind it. And it has made me a better communicator in my day job. And I'm in a master's program right now, and I'm studying um, communications and other things. And I feel like it makes me better in all of those areas to actively be putting into practice what I practice as an actor and put that into real life.
Oh, I love that. I completely agree. I feel like being an actor it makes you a more aware person in society, just so that you are tuning into those around you. Do you feel like, Taylor, that being a father, like, has it, have you ever had to use that in your acting?
I remember, so in our show where we met in Little Mermaid,
Yes.
Zoe was born, our oldest daughter. And I
Wow.
remember, so I took 2 weeks off when she was born, and John
Yes.
Rose filled in for me. And then coming back the first time, uh, it was cool because I was like, I mean, Prince Eric isn't a father, but
Yeah.
in it changed it. So it's like, I have a little girl now, and it changed
Wow.
how I interact with other people. And then I don't know, it was just a neat realization to change uh, from being in college, being single Taylor, and dealing with those struggles, how I used that as an actor or didn't use it as an actor, to then being post accident, then married Taylor, and then father Taylor.
Oh, totally.
How those real life experiences make it so much easier to then uh, play pretend and to build off of those real life experiences that you've had and be able to use what you've learned from them into building and creating real characters on stage who have also dealt with their own issues and struggles,
Yeah.
and be able to connect with them and use what you can as honestly as possible to portray that.
Totally. Well, and I think even just having a child and understanding that kind of love, I also think about it with your accident, having your relationship with Bailee deepen and having gone through that together. I think just any relationship, it doesn't even have to be a father-son relationship or anything, can it means so much more, and there's so much more perspective on it because of the life you've lived.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. So are there any other ways? I have so many people who write me and ask me, um, how do you find balance? How I didn't even know it was possible to be a performer and to to still
Yeah.
or to I'm sorry. I didn't even know it was possible to be a parent and to perform. Like, they
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
stop performing because they don't understand it's a possibility.
Because
So I would
we
love to
just
give
gotta.
anyone who has that mentality, I would love to help them to understand how you guys find balance. I love how you talked about communication, and that you really have to do that daily. Is there anything else?
Yes. I mean,
One,
we have a visitor. Tilly, do you want to say hi?
Oh, hi, Tilly. Tilly, you are my youngest member on the podcast.
Because I was born and I was a baby.
You're the cutest baby, Tilly.
Tilly, do you want to play with Poppy soon?
I could show Poppy. I want to show her my Poppy.
She wants to show you her Poppy.
Oh my gosh. Are you watching Princess Poppy on the TV right now?
Okay, go get it, Tilly. I just think, yeah, communication. I truly believe. I hear a lot of people. Sometimes women say things to me like, "Your husband lets you do that."
I hear this all the days, and I was like,
And I'm
I
like-
didn't even ask him. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, "Lets me?" Like,
Is it 1930?
but
Totally.
I also recognize that there are a lot of people who this wouldn't work for, and not to say that it should or that they need to, but I just think that it's so important for as spouses to value what's important for our spouse and to recognize that if they're doing what they love to do, then our relationship is going to be better, and our relationship is going to be way more grounded in trust and support and communication, you know?
Well, and just by even forbidding that behavior.
Here's my Poppy.
Tilly is,
Oh my gosh,
showing
Tilly.
a Poppy troll stuffed animal to the computer. Right?
I love Poppy Princess. She's the best.
Is she the best?
He has a crown on his head.
Oh, she's a princess.
Okay, Tilly, we're almost done, and then we'll come out there, okay? Okay, go see Sissy.
No, I want to go.
Okay, you have to be so quiet.
So along with communication, I feel like in many ways, and this may not be applicable to everyone, I do think it helps because we both understand all of our different passions, and because a lot of them are shared because we're both in theater. But I think the same thing applies regardless of what you and your spouse, what your different passions are, to be able to support each other in them. But I think it just takes honest communication in saying, this is important to me. I'd like to do this and this and this. And then both people sharing what they would like to be doing. And then you talk from there, and you talk about what logistically would work. If, we had a span of time where both of us were in a show or in rehearsals for a show while one of us was performing, and that was a little tricky. And so we've had some discussions about, would we ever want to do a show together or be in the same show? And we've talked about maybe when our kids are old enough to be in Christmas Carol with us or another show that has kids, then we could finally do a show together, because it wouldn't just be us abandoning our children, but it would be a family affair.
Totally.
We look ahead as soon as shows are posted. We look ahead to see what shows would be fun. Are there specific roles that we've always wanted to play? Then I have to take into account my work schedule with summer and say I can really only do the first show of the year or the last show of the year in most cases. So those are the shows I look at and say, are there roles in that would be fun for me? If not, then I don't plan on auditioning. And luckily for us, it's worked out that most of the times the shows that have roles that would be perfect for Bailee are not at the same time that there are shows that worked out for me.
Amazing.
So, we've been lucky there, and I don't know if that's been on purpose where we've looked at it, or if that's just been dumb luck. But so far we've never been in a place where both of us are looking at the same show saying, well, I want this role, and us having to flip a coin to decide whose turn it is or whatnot.
Totally.
And we don't also actively say, well, you've done this many shows, so it's my turn to do a show. But we just kind of go with it. We bend the show and do what works. And I think even if people are listening that aren't involved in shows, it's the same key concepts and principles work when communicating with, if both spouses are working, or with raising kids and balancing that between. It just takes honest communication of what works, what's driving you crazy, are there things that are bothering you, and then for me, one thing that's helped me, Bailey's listened to a bunch of communication podcasts, interpersonal communication. I have read several books on it. And then in class, in our organizational behaviors class, my master's program, I revisited some of those books. But I think learning, not only just being open and honestly communicating, but tactfully doing it to where you are actively listening to each other and not just wanting to be right or get your point across, but tactfully doing it, and tactfully listening and actively listening to where you are actually getting to whatever root problem there is, and you are addressing your root concerns with each other, to where you never get to a point to where you're attacking each other, or you you get to a place to where there's honest dialogue and real discussions happen. And I think since both of us have been taking an active role in studying how to communicate in that way, it's, I think it's also made us better actors, but we've been doing it actively so that we can be better at communicating between each other, with our extended family members, with our friends, and that's been very helpful.
Totally. I mean, I think the hardest thing is to address people's fears. And I
Yeah.
think once you can identify those and kind of break them down, you can really find where that root problem is. For example, if you were to say, well, my husband doesn't want me kissing other men in shows. And you go, okay, so what's your fear about that, to the husband? And, oh, well, I'm afraid you're going to, I don't know, develop feelings or something. And then it goes, okay, so do you think that I love you? Do you, you can really address those problems of, okay, so are we solid? And if we're solid, then this shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
How do you guys deal with stage kissing? Do you ever have to have any kind of discussion on it?
No, I think because, I mean, we both understood it when we met each other going,
Totally.
and so it was one of those things that was never an issue. If anything, it's something that we joke about and laugh at,
Yes.
different things where, um, like one of our friends, Dave Martin, has played Bailee's spouse in 2 different shows.
Yes.
And so then anytime they do a show, I'm like, hey, we're polygamous now again. And
Here we are.
so I don't know. It's just something that for us has never been an issue. And if
What
anything,
do you tell people who don't understand it?
um, to those that don't understand it, I mean, usually we just say, like my mom usually will. I think for her, if you're acting in a role, like then like you have to be using real emotions in order for it to seem real. And I think that's could be dangerous, if you're like, I need to like try and fall in love with this person in real life in order to actively portray that. No, that's, you're an actor, you are faking it.
Oh, totally.
You are on stage, you are telling lies, but you're telling lies as honestly as you can, but you're
Yes.
making it believable for the audience. But the moment that you start to believe that, oh, this is a real relationship, yeah, that could get dicey. And so I think it's important to understand that no, we're actors. This is pretend, and we understand that it's pretend. And so in that case, it's no different than shaking a hand or giving somebody a hug.
Totally.
It's
It's
like,
choreography. It's
this is
blocking.
built, yeah, this is built into the script. This is another professional. We are both being paid to come here and to kiss each other in front of lots of people. There's nothing real going on there.
Well, when you put it that way. No, seriously. I think it's really cool how you guys were talking about, we discussed if there was a show that we both wanted to do, that we talked about what would we say, what would we do. I think what's so cool, and something that kind of offhandedly happened for me after having kids, is that I became super selective about the shows that I did, and kind of
Yeah.
like an added bonus to that was that I was less of a commodity, and I had to really zone into what parts are right for me that I have a really good chance of getting, so that I'm not wasting this show that I have, that it's my turn.
Yeah, totally.
Have you guys felt that?
Yeah, I think Taylor is definitely very selective. Like if there's something that he's like, I would not enjoy it, then he will not. I'm a little more like open-minded to the
Yeah.
ideas. Like, for example, like when I auditioned for Wizard of Oz, I had no intention of being cast. I was just like, I was like, this could be fun. And I had just finished, there was nothing like on the horizon. And so I just auditioned, and like by some crazy miracle, I was cast and was Antem and Glinda. And it was just a role that I never, ever would have considered myself, like, never saw myself playing.
Yeah.
It stretched me in such a different way than anything else I had ever done. And I was really grateful for that. And kind of the same thing with Seussical, where
Yeah.
it was like I auditioned and they were considering me for Sour Kangaroo, and then it turned out that they wanted me for Maisie, and it was like, what? Like, that's not who I was thought I was going to play. And it was kind of, I guess it was just like happy coincidences and or what happenstances that like, oh, this worked out and it was totally what I needed, and it was what we needed financially, and it ended up being like an incredible experience. And so I was glad that
Cool.
I sort of thought outside the box for a minute and was like, I'll just go for it. Whereas there's been other shows where I clearly was like, no, I want this role and there is no other role for me. And sometimes it has worked out where I've gotten the role, and sometimes it has worked out where I haven't. And that's
Yeah.
okay, but we definitely try and just make sure that we talk before going to the Wizard of Oz audition, for example. It's like, hey, if I was by chance cast, this is a Christmas show, would we be able to make this work? And it's like, yeah. And then with Seussical, when it was being considered that I'd be single cast, we had to really talk about it and really think about it. And that was a Christmas show as well. And so 2 Christmases in a row, I was in a show, and shows that there were a lot of shows because they add a lot of shows around Christmas time at the Hale in Sandy. And so we just make sure that we talk about it. And I would have to check in occasionally and just be like, honey, like, is this okay? Are you okay with
Yeah.
how much you're, kind of flying solo? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. And if I need help, we will get it. If we need help, we have people that we can ask for help.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I truly love your mentality. I think so many people put barriers on what they think is possible, and so
Totally.
they don't even ask.
Yeah.
And I love that you guys just ask and say, hey, is this a possibility, instead of saying, oh, it's a Christmas show, I can't do it, or
Right.
oh, my husband wouldn't like this, or whatever it may be. I think opening up those possibilities is just a matter of talking about it.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
people are so scared to be, I feel like there are so many people who just hold back expressing their true feelings to
Yeah.
their significant other in whatever type of relationship that looks like, about their dreams or what they really want, or just for the sake of avoiding a conflicted conversation.
Right. Well, and it's vulnerable because you're
Yeah.
talking about your wants and needs.
Yes. But I think like never has there ever been a time where we've opened up a conversation about, maybe a difficult thing, that it hasn't ended in just complete love for one another, and just like,
Yeah.
we did it. I feel like we have like notches. Like every time we have a difficult conversation, our we get to the next notch of
Yeah.
our relationship and of our maturity as a couple. And it's like, I used to say every boy that I dated was just one step closer to my forever. And it's kind
No.
of that, where it's like, I feel like every conflict that we have is just one step closer to our zen, our like ultimate experience in communication.
I love that. Oh, I so admire you guys, and I am so appreciative of your time with me today. I know it's so
So
hard with
fun.
kids.
Sorry we had a
Oh,
couple interruptions, but
so you have so many things so many adventures, photography, voice lessons, hello, shows, everything. I would love to know, how can everyone follow along on your adventures?
so my just personal page is just at Tay and Bay. So TAYANDBAY. It's kind of our
Brand.
name. Yeah,
It's your
our
brand.
brand. Our brand. So and that's where a lot of stuff gets posted. But then I do have a separate Instagram for my photography, which is Tay and Bay Studios, and then a separate Instagram and page for my vocal studio, which is just Tay and Bay Vocal. And that one's pretty new and up. It's just kind of starting to blossom as I'm creating more online content for people to enjoy and experience. So, and then we do have a website. It's just tayandbay.com. It's currently under construction, but it's still accessible. And yeah, like there's some good things coming, I think. And Taylor mostly just channels everything through me, funnels everything through me.
Perfect.
So
it's not where I specialize.
We call it balance. Okay.
Yes.
So good at bedtime.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for being here.
Yes, we love you, Bree. I remember Taylor always has to remind me that he was the one who said that you and I would be good friends.
Yep.
Oh, he knew we were going to be besties.
The first full conversation that we had during a rehearsal when we finally had a break in the rehearsal process.
Yes.
Where both of us were not on stage.
During The Little Mermaid, yeah.
We were sitting there talking to each other, and like 5 minutes in, I was like, "You need to meet my wife. You guys would be best friends."
I'm like, okay, sure. And then we finally got to do a show together, and we've been inseparable ever since.
And I was just shouting from the background, "I told you so!"
Well, it's true. It's been
when are we
one of the best relationships
mounting
of my life.
Sister Act? I just keep begging them. I'm like, come on,
Come on, guys.
Sister Act, and like maybe just like a limited engagement or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
please do a female heavy show for once.
Right?
Come on.
Come on.
Oh,
I love that show so much.
Me too. I love you guys. Have the best day.
Love you
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Pepper Fox Podcast. Love what you heard today? Go ahead, share it with your friends, and leave us a review. Get more actor tips and resources by visiting pepperfoxphoto.com and check us out on Instagram at pepperfoxphoto.